Okay, question 8 from Mate. In my news diamond model, I give a great importance to the blogosphere. What do I think, you ask, is its new role in the internet? What's the blogosphere's role? The blogosphere is the conversation of a lot of people. I was very encouraged recently to read that its ethnic breakdown is actually pretty representative of the population at large, which would be one of my bigger worries. So in that sense it's more representative than the mainstream media. Now, what's its role? Let's not mistake the blogosphere for one homogeneous mass. The blogosphere is a large part personal diaries. It's a large part people who don't see themselves as journalists, although there is a lot of journalism by those people as well. So the actual journalism on the blogosphere is not the majority of it, but that still means that a large amount of journalism takes place in the blogosphere. And the blogosphere functions, I've heard someone call it the fifth estate. You know, it functions to a large extent as a watchdog on mainstream journalism. So blogs will report on what is being reported, and because you get people starting blogs who are experts in their field or very passionate about their subject area, they will highlight the errors of journalists who are not experts in those fields. They will generate a conversation around stories that the journalists are not necessarily engaged in, and so they will create feedback and corrections and identify extra information that the journalist would otherwise have missed. Now, it's encouraging to see now that newspapers and news organisations are introducing comment systems that are providing the space for that, but there's still a leap again from there to the engagement with comments and commenters that enables that information to feed through to the journalist and to the story. So I think that's one of the main roles of the blogosphere. It's a space for people to comment on the news and to distribute it online, to distribute the interesting stuff as well as the stuff that's incorrect, and you know, links get passed around quite prolifically on the web, and news organisations really are still struggling to get to grips with that. Now, in addition to that, it's also providing a voice for people who feel that what they're saying is not necessarily being reflected, and what they're seeing is not necessarily being reflected in mainstream media. So the blogosphere allows very, very niche publishing. You know, there are stories, there are issues that do not make the mainstream news because either it's not got a large enough audience, or because the story has moved on, because it's not considered newsworthy, it's not considered new. And in that sense, another role of the blogosphere is to make it newsworthy. The Trent Lott story is a great example of this. It didn't make the mainstream news, but the fuss about it did. And it's worth making a distinction that the news story was never about, in terms of the mainstream media, the news story was never, or to begin with, was not about Trent Lott. It was about people being angry about Trent Lott. That's the key thing. And the reason it didn't make the mainstream media in the first place was because there was no fuss at the event at which Trent Lott made his famous segregationist remarks, allegedly. So that's one of the important roles of the blogosphere, although people won't necessarily say that that's what they're trying to do, but they do serve to make stories newsworthy that weren't newsworthy to begin with.